Hello, my name is Scott Garriott, and I'm doing a video today about some records I found at thrift stores and garage sales around the area. Let me give myself a little less headroom here, or something like that. So, I used to always kind of be jealous of people when I would read about people finding these great records at Goodwill or whatever. I wouldn't believe them. I'd say that's not possible. You got to pay $100 for that record or whatever. But I've actually found some pretty good records, and in a few cases, some really good finds at thrift stores and garage sales around the area. So I want to show some of those right now. So I moved to a new place back in August, and it's the place I lived before was like a small town, but this is like an even more rural area. And I don't know if that's why, but I've been able to find a lot of really good records. So the first thing that I found that made me really kind of excited was this album here called Ambient 3, Day of Radiance. This is by an artist called Laraji, or maybe Larahi, L-A-R-A-A-J-I. And this is part of Brian Eno's Ambient series. And I already have the other 3 albums in this series, so I was really excited to find this one, because I don't know if I would have even ever bought this or even listened to it if I hadn't found it for $1. And it's pretty cool, almost as good as the other ones. There's Music for Airports is Volume 1, Volume 2 is, I believe, Plateau of Mirrors, and then this is Volume 3, Day of Radiance, and then Ambient 4, On Land is my personal favorite. And Brian Eno did the other 3. This was some other guy, a street musician that he found randomly. And yeah, I just found that for $1. Went into a thrift store, sitting right there in front. Excited to grab it. It's pretty good condition. Has a little bit of surface noise because this label here, Editions, they would often have surface noise even when it was a brand new record. I don't know why Eno picked that label, because you'd think that with an ambient album you'd want to have a really clean pressing. But other than that, pretty excited about that find. That was the first find that I was like really excited about. And then a few weeks, maybe a month later, I was at a different thrift store, kind of like a novelty shop. They had a lot of different things in there, kind of an all-purpose novelty shop, and they had records in there. And came across this Alice Coltrane album called Universal Consciousness, and I didn't even look it up or anything. I just grabbed it and bought it because I really like her album Journey in Satchidananda. I have a modern reissue of that. I'd love to get an original someday, but they're like a little out of my price range. But maybe I'll find one at a thrift store someday, hopefully. Probably not, but you never know. But this one was the album that she did before Journey in Satchidananda, and it's really good as well. I don't love it quite as much as that one, but for $1, I was very excited to find it. Got a little bit of wear here, but whatever. The disc was in really good VG Plus condition, so was very happy about that find. Check out Alice Coltrane. It's kind of like a spiritual jazz. That's what they call it. They use a lot of sitars, and but it's just a really beautiful, lush kind of sound. Sometimes kind of wild and crazy too. Anyway, the next one I found was I admit I had not heard of this band, and I'll admit that I actually looked this one up on Discogs when I was in the store, which you can judge me for that, but I bet most people out there do that occasionally too when they find something at a store. They're not sure what it is, but I came across this record here by a band called Area, and this is the title, Arbiet Mocht Frey or something. I don't know. It's an Italian album, Italian prog, and Discogged it real quick, and I could tell right away it was something I should probably purchase. It did have some wear on the cover. In fact, it had some pretty bad wear that I actually touched up. So maybe you can see it in the light there. But this area here was all just water damaged, ripped off white area. And I watercolored over this part here and Sharpied over the black part, and I think it looks pretty good now. I think you almost can't even tell. So I'd say, people might have different opinions about whether you should touch up records, but I think it looks a lot better, and I'd rather have this than some water damaged, thing, which it is water damaged, but it's just harder to tell now. But the disc itself was a great shape, so this is not an original. It's a 78 pressing, and I believe the original was 73. The originals sell for like $100 online. This one sells for like half that, but doesn't sell in the US very often though, so who knows what I could get for it. I'm not going to sell it though. I'm going to keep it in my collection for now, maybe sell it someday. And give it a few more spins. I liked what I've heard so far from it. If that was all I found, I would be pretty stoked, but it kept getting better from there. So, a little while after that, maybe a month or two after that, I walk into a different thrift store, one I go to sometimes to buy shirts and check the record section sometimes as well. And right sitting in front, I see this Doors album. It's a Doors self-titled. And the records there are generally 50 cents, so I was like, well, should get that for 50 cents. Doesn't matter what pressing it is, or even if it's not in perfect condition. Gotta snag that, even though I already had a version of it. I think I had like a 1970 version or something like that. But this is an original gold label, so it's a 67. Cover's got some issues. Disc is not perfect, but pretty good. Probably a decent VG. But that wasn't it, because it wasn't just the one Doors album. I flip past that Doors album, and there's Strange Days. You got Absolutely Live was next. Got Waiting for the Sun. This was all in the same record bin at the same time at the same thrift store. Soft Parade. And then LA Woman. And I got some more Doors things to show that came from that same thrift store, but I want to tell a little aside to this Doors thing here. So the records were all marked differently than 50 cents initially, so it had like $3, $4, one of them had like $7 on it. And so I wasn't going to get them all at first. I was just picked out a few, and there's more too I'm going to show you. But I just picked out a few, and I thought, okay, like it's fair. They're charging more for these. They're worth more than 50 cents, so I thought it was fine. And the only Doors album I had was the self-titled, so I figured it'd be good to bulk up my Doors collection a bit. But when I went up there, they started charging me 50 cents for all of them, so I said, I'll be right back, I'm going to grab some more records. And I grabbed every Doors album that they had there, and I'm going to show you the rest that I had. These are all bootlegs. So, I don't know much about these. I've listened to them and I like what I heard, but I listened to a few of them. But these are all Doors bootlegs that were also 50 cents. And these are actually more valuable online than the studio albums. So these I may sell at some point to someone who would appreciate them more than I would. Although I do like the Doors, but this is more like for Doors completists and such. So yeah, so that's the Brian Eno, not Brian Eno, but the Ambient 3 album. I had the Alice Coltrane album. That's like a $50 record too. And those Doors albums and that Italian Prague album. So just those, I would have been more than happy with my thrift store shopping, and been happy to call it a day and go on spending, regular record store prices for records for a while. But I had one more surprise coming for me, and this eclipsed them all. So I'll show you that. And this was not at a thrift store, it was at an estate sale. I was just out and about on a day off, and someone that I live with told me about an estate sale. So I just thought, I'll go check it out, I'm not doing anything. and go in there, ask if they have any records. I looked around first, didn't find anything else I was really interested in, but I asked if they had any records, and they did in this one room. So I go in there, start flipping through. It wasn't amazing stuff, nothing I had to have, but a little bit better than what you normally would expect at those kind of places. And so I keep flipping through, and like the 9th or 10th record or so, I come across a record that I was in shock, honestly. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Checked the condition, it was decent. Even if it was trashed, I would have bought it immediately. But I'm going to show it right now. This is an original pressing. Never thought I'd own this. Easter Everywhere by the 13th Floor Elevators. And if you're a record collector, you probably know that this is a pretty awesome find. This is a 1967 stereo pressing. Was it 67? I don't know if it was 67 or 68. I think it was 67. But 67 stereo pressing of Easter Everywhere by the 13th Floor Elevators. And yeah, I was kind of in shock. Paid $2 for it. Had this fear I was going to get like robbed or something on the way to the car, but I couldn't believe I found that. I do already have a copy of the debut. This is also an original stereo pressing. I paid more than $2 for this one though. This was quite a bit more than $2, but not astronomical like some people pay for these, but it was a high price. But it looks like a G+, but it plays like a strong VG, so that's a different story though. But we're talking about these cheap finds, and that's what this one was. $2 for that. Couldn't believe it. Speaking of the 13th Floor Elevators, I was at a different thrift store visiting the town I used to live in and looking through that selection. Most of the stuff they had there was kind of overpriced, and some of it was really overpriced. I was looking through like 45s that were $20 for 45s that should have been $2. But then I came across this, an original copy of You're Gonna Miss Me, 45 by the 13th Floor Elevators, and it was $15, which is a good deal. I mean, it's not as good of a deal as that Easter Everywhere, but definitely worth having for $15, an artifact like that. So now I have a pretty decent collection of original 13th Floor Elevator stuff. Never thought I would own any of those, let alone all three. Here's another 45 I'll show real quick. This is 60 Minute Man by the Dominoes. I got this because I purchased a book of 45s for like $7 just for fun, because it looked like there were some interesting ones in there with some cool labels. Most weren't really worth that much, and most of it wasn't quite my kind of music, but this one's worth a little bit, and I guess it was an influence on, people consider it an early influence on rock and roll, so it has some historical value. It's an interesting track, check it out. Also got this Frank Sinatra, this Frank Sinatra 45, only available at a place called the California Nevada Lodge in Lake Tahoe, and it's like a $20, sells for like $20-$30 on Discogs. So that was kind of a cool find for 50 cents or whatever it was at the thrift store. I've also been buying some tapes, and I don't really listen to tapes that much because I don't like the way they sound that much, and I just don't ever think to listen to them, but sometimes I just like collecting for the sake of collecting, and who doesn't sometimes. But these are cool because they only cost like a quarter or a dime a piece. So I found these at yard sales and thrift stores. So I got some stuff like Led Zeppelin BBC sessions. Got Sgt. Pepper. Got Born to Run, Why Not? This Judas Priest live album. Live Evil by Black Sabbath. Speaking of Black Sabbath, this was a pretty cool find. Sabotage on cassette. I think that's a 70s cassette as well. This is pretty sweet too. Working Man's Dead by the Grateful Dead. The Beatles 1. There's some glare on the screen, sorry about that. Not really a Metallica fan, and I know this is not one of their best albums, but Load by Metallica for a quarter, why not? Got these Woodstock cassettes, volume 1 and 2. And we got Rumors, definitely had to pick that up for a dime or a quarter, whatever it was. And we got Pearl by Janis Joplin. And I think that's it. Maybe I'll start collecting cassettes if I can only get them for 25 cents. Definitely worth it. Maybe sell them someday or just start a fun little cassette collection. But anyway, that's my video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you would like to see if you feel like it. I'm thinking about doing... What I'm thinking about doing next is... I do a radio show once a week. And so I'm thinking about doing a video that shows how I do my radio show. I play records on the radio show, so I'm thinking about... It's a way to show records, but also show like how I put my radio show together and pick songs for it and all that. So it's like a radio / vinyl video. I think that might be fun. So I might do that. I collect all genres of music. Pretty much all genres. Maybe not like... Probably don't have a lot of polka albums, but other than that, I got stuff in most genres. So... Got a lot of stuff from the 60s and 70s, every Bob Dylan studio album, lots of Rolling Stones, Beatles, Kinks, and then also punk and obscure outsider music, things like that. So any requests for any videos on things like that, let me know. And hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you're having a good day, and goodbye.